Today's episode is brought to you by The Fleshlight, the Bob and Kevin Show's very first fake sponsor. Okay, it's really not.
The thoughts and opinions of Bob and Kevin
of the Bob and Kevin Show are exclusively the thoughts of
Bob and Kevin and not the thoughts of their employers.
Past, present, and probably not future.
That's a little foreshadowing of what we're going to be talking about today. But I think before we really get down and dirty with that topic, anything new in tech this week that flew across the tweeters or anything like that for you?
Gosh, probably. Nothing really jumps out at me. I usually use like a flipboard on my phone and like whittle it down to science and technology headlines. Do you ever use one of those things? Or I don't know, does Apple have one?
Yeah, Flipboard app.
Okay.
Sure.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool little thing. One of the headlines that stuck out to me as being really kind of awesome was the U.S. Navy is like, oh yeah, those videos that leaked with the Tic Tac, yeah, they're actually legit videos. There you go. Have fun with that.
Oh, I haven't really visited that or revisited that since we did the Aliens Area 51 and Bob Lazar episode. Shout out to that being our #1 episode of all time. I'm really getting disgusted by it, but interesting that you bring up that headline because we did talk about that a little bit in that episode, and I didn't read this article. So can you give me the gist of what the U.S. government is actually admitting to?
Well, so the headline is basically, yeah, those videos are real, and then it kind of leaves you to fill in the blank there. But if you read the articles, they're pretty much like, whoa, we're not saying little green men are a thing, right? Or aliens or whatnot. But we're saying we have no idea what those videos are, or what are in those videos. But those are legit videos. And we're trying to break down the barriers between non-government and government with reporting and whatnot. So it's very validating for a guy like Tom DeLonge. Are you familiar with Tom DeLonge?
The name rings a bell.
Former frontman for Blink-182 is now a UFO chaser.
Oh, yes.
And so I believe he was part of the group that helped get some of this out there and, validated and stuff like that. But when you listen to Tom, if you've never seen him on like JRE or something else, we had Bob Lazar. We didn't have Bob Lazar on, but we talked about Bob Lazar. Yes, we had Bob on. Just the other Bob.
No, we did not.
we had the Beatty Bar version. Bob Lazar sounds very believable. On a scale of 1 to 10, definitely towards the 10. Tom DeLonge sounds like I like Blink-182. Tom's probably a nice guy, but man, I'm pretty sure you could sell him anything. Just like Dan Aykroyd. If you haven't seen the Dan Aykroyd Jerry, Dan Aykroyd believes in everything. I'm convinced.
He's super deep in alien abduction, which is crazy. He knew minute details and Joe was like, wait, what? How do you is it like a hobby, or how do you get so deep into that?
Yeah, and I didn't know Dan Aykroyd was one of the co-writers of Ghostbusters. I knew he was in it, but I didn't know he was a co-writer. I think Harold Ramis, and he wrote that. And they talked a little bit about it, but you can definitely see where there's some real-life tendencies in the movie Ghostbusters because Dan's totally into the paranormal.
So let's get back to that. It was on CNN, right? That was a CNN headline.
For the U.S. Navy? Yes,
yeah.
It was.
So they admitted that the videos were real. If you break that down, what is a fake video? Are they saying that they've determined that it wasn't faked?
They're saying
that this is definitely an unidentified flying object?
They're saying that the video you're seeing is the same video that we believe to come off the aircraft. There's no doctoring. There's no denial. Yeah, that happened. We don't know what it is. That's basically what they said.
And there's multiple of these videos, right?
Oh, yeah.
More than one pilot has seen the quote-unquote Tic Tac.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's kind of cool that we're kind of finally past maybe some of the government perceived bullshit, but we still don't know, right? The more pragmatic view of that is it's some sort of practical lens effect or some sort of whatever. It could be some sort of Russian thing or Chinese thing, just the way we do Cloak and Dagger with
Oh, we'll get to the Chinese a little later in the episode. And the Japanese too.
But I think it's interesting that they say, oh, well, yeah, those videos are real and we really have no idea. Because the reason a lot of times the governments don't like talking about it because it might reveal vulnerabilities in your defense grid. And
well, sure.
So there's that.
But do you think this also, doesn't this generate a very slippery slope in giving like Bob Lazar a ton of credibility?
Yes-ish and no-ish, because they're both shades of blue, but they're definitely different hues. It's kind of in the it's in the realm, but it's still, I think, enough division there where I don't think it validates one another.
Really? God, I think it gives him a lot of credibility because he was talking about stuff like this, and they kind of brought up the Tic Tac as anecdotal evidence, and all of a sudden now that's kind of validated that we definitely don't know what it is, but the videos are not doctored, because a lot of other like UFO videos, most of them have been debunked because of, they figured out it was a guy throwing a paper airplane or something, and all made up footage. But that's a big deal for them to say, yeah, we're pretty sure that this is legit of something.
I was watching the Dan Aykroyd Jerry, and Dan's like, hey, look at these pictures from like the 1960s. And this one guy has all these pictures over the decades. And then Joe's like, wait a second, you're telling me that one guy happened to always have his camera and happened to always have the optimal camera angle to always be there to take all these pictures? And Dan's like, yes. And then I saw a few of them, and I swear to God, it looks like somebody was holding a cooking pot in front of the camera. It's like, look, it's an alien. I'm like, and Joe called bullcrap on it. Oh,
I thought it was pretty funny when Joe was like, hey, did you know that I used to host a show called Joe Rogan Questions Everything?
And then Nick Bostrom was on Joe recently, and I was like, oh my gosh, we totally just brought him up in the Matrix episode, and it got really frustrating for me, though, because I think Joe just did not understand the basic premise that it's possible that your current reality, we have no frame of reference that we're either in a simulation or not. And Joe's like, but we're not. I understand your argument, but we're not. And it was just really frustrating because I'm like, this could have been an awesome episode, Joe, but you just didn't get it, and it was so disappointing.
Oh, I have to tune into that one. Usually he's pretty like mind expanded and is down for entertaining stuff like that. It's interesting that he shut it down so quickly.
Well, it was at the 2-hour mark, and the show really went nowhere after that because Nick just kept trying to like choose different analogies and metaphors, and Joe's like always comes back to, I understand what you're saying, but it's not what's happening. I mean, it's just like, Joe, if you understood, you wouldn't. Never mind. So,
well, I think Bob Lazar on their show, they talked about that if they were living in an alien simulation, and he didn't seem to poo-poo it too much then.
I got to be honest, man. The more we talked through the simulation argument, the more I don't like get weirded out or anything, but the more I watched a bunch of debates, atheist versus Islam, atheist versus Christianity. Just, okay, let's hear it. Both sides. Let's go. Let's duke it out. And I keep thinking, man, maybe this simulation argument resolves both, meaning you're looking at two sides of one coin. And the scientists are on one side looking at the pixels of the world, and the
right.
religious folks are on the other side going, great, yeah, but what's the existential bits of this? And everyone could be right. And it's like the creepiest thing. I'm like, oh, this is way too feasible, amazing. So shameless plug for 2 of our episodes, Aliens and Enter the Matrix. Of course, if you watch the Alien one, you'll join a bunch of other people because that's our number freaking 1 podcast of all time. What do you think, Bob?
By far, 2-1. 2-1 over its next closest listens. So, yeah, I don't want people to think that this is going to be a recap episode. It just kind of is where the conversation took us, but I think we have definitely a sexier topic for today's episode.
I love these segues.
You are listening to the Bob and Kevin Show with Bob Beattybar
and Kevin Giescheski. Each week we cover relevant tech and social issues related to technology.
Our website is bobandkevin.show.
And our episodes can be found virtually on any podcast network.
Be sure to follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook.
Just search for Bob and Kevin Show.
Hey, Bob, what are we going to do today?
Well, Kevin, today we're taking a good hard look at the tech of sex. It's a topic that we've kicked around for a very long time, and until very recently, I think we were both a little afraid of it, a little timid, kind of like virgins, I guess. We just didn't really know how to handle it. But today we're going to kind of take a walk through how the porn industry has kind of led the way in some technologies, and then we're basically going to bridge an entire gap all the way to covering how AI is being integrated into the sex industry. So, I am Bob from the Bob and Kevin Show, and that other guy who kicked us off with the what are we talking about today is...
I'm Kevin.
All right, so, full disclosure, I did an immense amount of research on this topic, which is kind of funny for me because I'm usually the one that's not super researched. But this one's been really intriguing to me for a very long time. So, Kevin, if you don't mind, I kind of wanted to start, because you and I have talked about this one many times, of how the porn industry kind of is an innovative, cutting-edge resource for a lot of our web technology. Would you agree with that?
I would 100% agree with that. In fact, I like your little puns you had in the open there. I totally noticed several things there. So to continue that, I believe the porn industry is on the tip of the spear, if you know what I'm saying. They are. We're going to giggle way too much during this.
The tip of something. I think that was an exact pickup from the last episode.
Yeah, I mean, so... I'm not sure we want to go into like where is porn's place in the world, because I humbly think it's a vice. There's good to it, there's terrible to it. It's kind of like gambling in my way. I'm looking at a website called enough.org, and the porn they do porn and all kinds of stuff, and they have all these stats, because I have some stats to go over with you. It's here to stay, whether or not you agree with it, don't agree with it. It's not going anywhere anytime soon. But yeah, I think the porn industry has to deal with scaling on levels that we don't really deal with on a day-to-day basis. And yeah, so back to you.
Well, I think most of our modern day video streaming technology and e-commerce technologies can probably be directly linked to the adult, web industry, because basically once they started getting into that technology, the video, like the traditional porn studio of old, kind of really evolved in a very rapid pace. And I think we have a lot of those technologies related to e-commerce and video to thank to that industry. I also wanted to say that, we're probably going to bleed into morality of some of these things from time to time. And culturally, too, a lot of my research, the U.S. is not... we're very puritanical, I guess, from my research. We'll talk about a couple documentaries that I peeped and kind of where the U.S. wasn't even really mentioned. So it's all very interesting.
Wait a second. So
did you know?
Well, real quick, point of clarity on that.
Yeah,
you're saying puritanical, because all the stats I'm looking at looks like the United States is the number one consumer of pornography.
We might be the number one consumer of visual pornography online, but when we start talking about sex toys, bots, and dolls, it's going to blow your mind.
Well, so I'm going to make a prediction. My prediction is it's going to be because in America, sex is taboo still, very much so, I think. And outside the borders of our country, you'll find a lot more where it's less taboo and it's more just matter of fact. It's just whatever, right?
Yeah. And there's some really interesting stuff in one of the documentaries that I watched, culturally, especially related to Japan, and how people aren't coupling anymore. Like the birth rates are incredibly low, and there's like this fear of the Japanese culture and I guess race, or is Japanese anyway, but extinction was one of the lines used in one of these documentaries. Whoa. And some of that they're attributing to the access to these dolls.
So you're saying possibly in Japan that you're having less human relationships and more human and non-human, and that
correct.
I don't want to make that sound like innuendo, like some sort of robot or something, right?
Right. And these are not purely physical relationships. So it's, yeah, I was just like, my jaw was hitting the floor for many hours in the research on this. But I think before we really, drive headlong into that, I wanted to talk a little bit more about like evolving from the online, unless you want to go over, you have some stats apparently.
Well,
so do you want to talk still more about the online porn?
Yeah,
usage?
I just want to rattle off some stats. I want to preface all this with, it's hard, you don't go to getpornstats.com. So, getting these reliably is a bit of a, I'm not sure, so
I think Pornhub publishes theirs, so it's actually freely available to look at Pornhub analytics.
So in aggregate, I was trying to figure out how much pornography traverses the internet, on a scale of 0 to 100, what percent? And Bob, do you want to take a guess? Maybe you already found out in your research.
Well, I was going to say, are we kind of measuring this up against YouTube, because YouTube is like a massive amount of percentage of web traffic.
Yeah,
I'm going to guess
all
it's
web
close
traffic.
to. Yep, I'm going to go 41%.
You're not terribly far off. Everything I found, it's about 30%. So about one. That means
all right.
1 in 3 visits to something on the internet, or 1 in 3 resources accessed, is to an adult.
Now, is that globally or is that U.S. only?
I believe that's worldwide. But again, here's where I'm like, I don't want to certify any of these stats. I do have some Pornhub stats. Apparently, over the course of 2018, you want to guess how many visits in 2018 Pornhub amassed?
In 1 year?
In 1 year.
Oh, God. It's got to be measured in billions.
Give me a number, Bob.
48 billion visits.
I still think you're within a statistical anomaly or error there. 33.5 billion, which is 5 billion more than the previous year. And the daily average is about 92 million visitors. So if we just kind of think about that for a moment, that's a scaling issue. That's a lot of resources. And I don't know if you've noticed, Bob, but the porn industry is going to a free model for the most part. There's still pay services.
I have friends who've told me about that.
Okay. But that begs the question of, wait a second. Mr. Tim Cook of Apple says, if you're not paying for the product, Bob, what?
You are the product.
That's right. So you got to kind of cock your head and go, how are they monetizing this, Bob?
Wait, what do you have to do with your head?
That pun was not intended. Maybe it was a subliminal one. So, Bob, how do you speculate they're making money?
Well, they're doing the same thing that YouTube does, that Facebook does, that all the tech giants are doing. They're using data, and I believe that they're ad supported. There's promoted content. I would say from what my research has shown, it's a freemium model. So all those sites like a Pornhub, I think there's a PornTube, I think there's a YouPorn. All of them have a free, you can view, browse, watch for free, but then they do have premium subscriptions as well. So is that the freemium model? I don't know if I ever used that correctly.
So the answer is anyone in incognito mode on Chrome can still be fingerprinted, and the website owners would still know, could still amass what you're into, air quotes, and for whatever reason attribute it to your machine. And
oh, really?
Yeah. And because of the way Facebook and others have pioneered fingerprinting, all they have to do then is correlate your fingerprint of your computer with one of your legitimate websites that you might go to, because there's no such thing as, well, I only exist on this site. Now I go to that site. Now there's different. Well, the whole double click in Facebook has broke that barrier down. So once your browser is profiled, they can easily attach a name to that. So there you go.
How come, wow, this is going to deviate just a little bit, but how come we hear about Facebook and other entities and their data seepage or straight out selling it, but we haven't really heard anything about the porn industry and their data selling?
It almost makes me feel like the porn industry has better privacy practices than Facebook. And that just
they're more ethical. Could we say that they're more ethical than Facebook and YouTube and Amazon?
At this point, I would say yes. I mean, when it comes down to it, Facebook is loud, obnoxious, and can't keep a secret, whereas the porn industry is much more discreet, in my opinion, and is much better at just worrying about whatever. And now, of course, we've come from 20 years of sketchy websites and viruses being associated with porn, but I think the porn industry, honestly, has cleaned up their act quite a bit. What do you think?
Well, I think that they probably have as well, because they see the revenue potential of, the data collection and the advertising model. And I guess another reason why maybe they aren't so leaky and selly of the data is probably because it's a pretty closed network. It's not like you're going to see a Tupperware ad on Pornhub. It's going to be another adult industry type advertisement.
Like the Fleshlight.
Like the Fleshlight, yes, our fake sponsor for today's episode. But I've actually never, my friend have never actually seen ads for Fleshlight either.
Me either. So
my air quote friend.
All right. So that was a very long runway to say that the adult industry is kind of bad reputation as it gets, and trust me. It has a bad reputation. Oh, side tangent. Do you know who Mia Khalifa is or was?
Yeah, was.
Well, she's still alive. She's retired.
Oh God, I was gonna say last I checked. And,
let's clarify.
And she's actually gotten out of porn, right? She's some kind of business mogul now, or something.
Yes, and she recently wrote some stuff on her experience in the porn industry, and she only did like a dozen videos, and she got paid $1,000 per video. So she's rich, right?
Wow, I thought she was far more prolific than that.
No. So apparently she only made like 12 grand in the industry, and no residuals, no nothing. I saw another stat where the porn industry makes $3,000 a second. So apparently the actors and actresses get paid a fixed amount, no matter, and no residuals, no royalties. An industry where women actually get paid more than men, but I'm sure they're exploited 100 times more than the men are.
Wait, so you mean that those videos that play like 33 million times on like a Pornhub, there's no like commission to the company that owns the video, which would then give a commission to the performers?
Oh, that could happen. But the performers, a standard, because I looked it up, I Googled this. I'm like, so what does a industry person make? And it's about $1,000 a video, and it's a one-time fee. And that's where, if you're 18, 19, 20 years old and somebody comes at you with $1,000, you're like, yeah, I'll take $1,000, not fully realizing the consequences of that, not fully realizing that, that if you're going to do that, that's fine. But the better play here is actually probably get an agent and do all this. And of course, the person trying to give you $1,000 is going to be like, oh, whoa. It's kind of like one of those lawyer commercials. Oh no, they called Glazer and Ebbs, to the insurance meeting, and everyone gets, like scared and we better act up. So I think there's a lot of exploitation there, because I think the good business model, the healthy business model would be, well, here's a fee and here's a residual, because you're not always going to be capable of making these videos, and C, what happens when you put a video like that on the internet, Bob? How long does it stay on the internet, Bob?
Forever.
Yes, it does.
Ever.
So I would honestly,
wait,
well, go ahead.
isn't there a new, like, would these be films of the traditional, like, direct to DVD type, direct to VHS type that have made it into the digitized world? Because I feel like, and this could be a misconception of mine, and I didn't research this aspect of it, but I feel like the free versions of these sites act in a way that YouTube actually does. So you would have, like, if you have 3,000 subscribers and 10,000 hours of viewable content, then you're getting a slice of, an advertising revenue. I guess, is that a misconception on my part? Or
let's just put that as an unknown, because I don't know. But even so, when the filmmaker, the directors make these videos, they're paying their actors just like somebody who would be in a film, and it's whatever deal you cut with your actors is the deal. So some actors, like a Tom Cruise in a traditional movie, is going to be like, hey, I want 20 million plus I want 1% of the box office, because he's got clout. But when you got a 19-year-old man or woman come in here and somebody says $1,000, take it or leave it, and they are like, you mean for like an hour's worth of work? And they're like, yeah, that's it, $1,000 an hour, sounds really good, right? And then that's it. They shove something in their face, they look their driver's license, hopefully check the age verification and all this fun stuff, and then boom, they're gone. See you later, you're in the biz now. And then it's a use you up and spit you out kind of industry, from what I see.
I feel like there's got to be, because I know on Pornhub there's a huge amateur library. Like they're not brought to you by Filmhouse, ABC. So like, is that just a hobby thing for people, or are they generating revenue from uploading their video?
Well, I'm sure there's people like into that, but if the smart play is to make your own videos and own your own rights. Ask Taylor Swift how that's working out for her in the music industry, where she doesn't own her old master recordings, because that's another kind of slimy business industry where they're just like, oh yeah, we need you to sign up for your next 10 albums, and take it or leave it. And then later on, looking back, it's like, why did I sign that up? Oh, it's because they preyed on me. And there's a lot of that, I think, in the adult film industry. Sure, you've got some big name actors and actresses that can probably name their terms, but that's a very small percent. And the rest of them are probably, do a handful of videos like Mia Khalifa, and then that's it. You're done. You're out. You're back to being normal, and good luck. Good luck with.
So she did how crazy is this though? She did a handful of videos, or 2 handfuls, 12, we'll call it, and she's almost a household name.
Well, maybe. I mean,
well,
what does a household name qualify as in the adult film industry? I mean, yeah.
But that's very interesting. So technically, she made $12,000 in the industry, yes. But yet so many people know her name. That just the proliferation of video online. That's just crazy,
right? But she's. I mean, I think she's doing well to pivot her case into maybe something that she can make outside the business. But I would say, without
guarantee, she's got more views on those 12 videos than we had on our 40 YouTube
I
episodes.
I guarantee it. But what I'm saying is there's probably more people who are used by the industry than that are using it to their advantage. There's
right.
It's
a typical 1%er situation. The people at the very top of the industry, the distributors, probably are the ones that are making the big cash.
Yeah. All right. So take a step or two up. So that's a lot of video. It's a lot of views. That's a lot of infrastructure. I want to know if AWS or Azure hosts some of these things. I don't know. So is that something that you ran across?
You know what? I didn't really look at the background tech of the web industry, the adult web industry, but that's a really good question. I would even venture to say maybe the porn industry was probably the early testing grounds of this distributed computing and, cloud-based infrastructures. I would have to guess. Because, they're under a constant DDoS, really.
Yeah, I'm trying to Google it, and, it's just one of those things. It's a whole freaking industry that nobody talks about in the open, yet it requires a ton of infrastructure. There's some consultants.
Yeah, nobody talks about the tech backbone. Yeah.
Where are the consultants and the geeks going, yeah, I'm a senior dev. Where do you work? I work at Pornhub. Oh, yeah. You just don't run into those people. Maybe I need to search some more on Google and follow, because I have real questions about these things. Did Netflix go, hey, we're starting to have some scaling problems here. Hey, let's call somebody over, in the adult industry, because you know what? They've been here, done that. And or did they, be like, no, we can't do that.
So, Kevin, got a question for you. You ready?
I'm ready.
All right. If I asked you, did you know that there are actually phone-based apps that you can use to control vibrators? Were you aware of this?
I was not aware, but I am totally not surprised.
So we're kind of taking a step up the ladder. So we talked about the web-based stuff. Now we're kind of going into the app realm, and trust us, we really are getting to robots here eventually, but it's kind of like this evolutionary thing. So there are underwear inserts or body inserts that can be purchased that are actually connected to an app. And those massage units, vibrators, sex toys, can be controlled either by yourself via the phone, or your partner could have the app and actually change the settings or turn the thing on or off remotely. So yeah, that technology is out there.
There can't be a huge appeal. Like, we're not talking like mass market here, right? This has got to be a niche market.
Vibeease.com is a website that is all about it's got tons of different vibrators, but their big thing is the app-controlled vibrator.
Bob,
Paired with our power... Yeah?
I have questions.
Oh, okay. So instead of reading all the description, yes, shoot with your questions.
So curiosity number one, because I'm just going to ask without going to the site, just out of, I just want to be completely blind when I do this. Is this app available on Apple and Google Play?
I believe so. Hang on. Let me see if I see the icons on screen. Yes, it is in the Apple Store, the Apple App Store, and on Google Play.
Can you tell me how many downloads are? Because that's going to be insightful.
If I go to the App Store link, will it tell me?
I believe so, especially on Google. Yeah, Android.
All right, let me click through here to see what it says. It's on the Google Play. It has 747 ratings. It doesn't tell downloads. It just shows how many ratings it has.
Okay,
it's got
so it's
3.25 stars.
So, does the world need a Bluetooth-enabled Vibe garment, Bob?
I don't. It's web enabled. It's not Bluetooth enabled, because you can do it over the World Wide Web.
Well, yeah, but something. I mean, you don't have a web server in your crotch, is what I'm getting at. It's got to be, like near like your phone or something.
Well,
right?
I guess it's Bluetooth triggered from the phone. You are correct. So it's connected to the Bluetooth. Now, here's a really nice feature that the app has. The app has two-way video chat integrated. Isn't that nice?
No, this is horrible. This is This is the Jeff Goldblum. Maybe rather than think about whether or not we could do something, whether or not we should do something from Jurassic Park. Just saying.
Here's another nice feature. Say that you don't really have a partner and you just want to sit down with a nice glass of wine and listen to some nice music that will trigger vibrations. It can actually be triggered by music as well.
So if we apply Occam's razor to the vibrator industry, I think this is over-engineering a lot here. Can't we just go with a more traditional solution here, Bob? Do we have to internet all of things, all the things? That's all I'm asking.
Well, I do think that this is a step along the way to that fully realized AI sex bot that we'll get to eventually in the episode. I promise. But those things are thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. This little vibrator and app combo, not a big expensive ask.
You know what? While we're on the topic, you know what Amazon has?
Wait.
Uh-oh.
You can even have the vibrations controlled. It can be synchronized to a naughty audiobook.
Oh my God. What does that even mean? He's supposed to. Okay, never mind. Don't answer that.
So there's specific audio titles that are Vibe Ease enabled, and so basically there's certain parts of the story where certain things are happening, and that must trigger a vibration sequence on your device.
Do you know what Joe Rogan taught me recently by watching one of his pods? There is Sasquatch erotica books in this universe.
Yes,
that's
I
right.
saw that episode as well.
Oh my God. What is wrong with you, humanity? What is going on? Okay. So,
just wait. We'll be diving deeper into that issue too.
Oh, deeper, just what we need. So,
hey, it's waterproof and USB rechargeable, so that's great.
Well, thankfully they thought these things through. So, one thing that the internet has also enabled in this realm is like Amazon has got a whole adult store for all of these sorts of things. So distribution of these things is like enabled big time by, say, an Amazon, because I mean, if you're going to like some weird creepy site, to buy these things, your level of confidence that you're getting a virus is not very good. But if you buy a Bluetooth enabled vibrator from Amazon, you're like, hey, why not? 10% off. Let's do it. So,
totally legit.
Yeah. So okay, just wondering.
Yeah, my search history is trash right now. Just for the record, I'm gonna have to totally just bleach it.
Yeah, like seriously, if the cops come, you've got a lot of explaining to do. You've got to get this pod published. So you can be like, no, really, I was doing it for this podcast, and just
it's all above board. It's all research. So so we have the remote controlled, iPhone or Android device controlled vibrators, sex toy. So if we move over the spectrum, I sent you this link the other day, the Autoblow A.I.
My God.
This is for the men out there, but we'll get to the ladies here in just a minute. But this was a Indiegogo, so basically a GoFundMe type
like a
project.
Kickstarter, right?
Kickstarter, that's what I meant. Kickstarter project, yes. And they're on version 3.0. The video is hilarious. Everyone should look it up. I'll put the link in the.
Is it safe for work video?
Ish.
I mean, based on what it is, I would imagine probably not.
So in the video, they had their researchers watching. I think they said they watched 16,000 blowjobs online. And what they were able to do is figure out data points, and they were actually able to record data points from these 16,000 blowjobs that they watched online. And they integrated those data points into the AI for this Autoblow A.I. And I think that there's something like 60 different presets or something ridiculous like that.
Bob, I have a question.
Yes.
does it use blockchain?
It is not on the blockchain yet, but I believe that that's only a matter of time.
Okay.
How much would you pay as an early backer on Indiegogo for Autoblow AI?
I will be on record saying I'm not in the market. But based on what you're describing, I don't know. When you throw AI on there, the marketing department's like, that means we can charge more. It's a physical device, right?
Yes.
Yes,
it's a very physical device.
Let me ask you this. Is it like talking to a server somewhere? Is there like some sort of connected service because it's using AI?
No, it's onboard. It's onboard AI. So the chip has all the AI online, which you can basically experience 10 different real blowjobs powered by artificial intelligence.
This, again, I don't see why people just don't walk out their door and say hello to somebody. And just, why are we staying at home? And never mind. Okay, how much? You asked me how much.
We'll get to that later. Wait, first of all, I need to correct a fact that I stated. They watched 8,333 minutes of oral sex video. And they were able to determine how to extract data from that, which is crazy. I mean, there's actually it's an interesting page. You should look at it for the science of it. There's no dirty pictures.
You're going to have a link in the show notes, of course, right?
Yes, I will put a link in the show notes so everyone can go check it out. They're on the final stage of the Indiegogo for version 3. And the only one that there's only 2 left. And it's $179 as an early backer.
Do we know how much version 1 and 2 cost?
I don't see pricing for version 1 and 2. The funny thing is I don't actually think there was a version 1. I think they started with version 2. So that means version 1 must have been tragic. They have raised $747,000 by 5,706 backers.
Bob, I have 2 questions for you.
Shoot, I'll do the best I can.
Do they say if it's TSA approved? Will this make it through security?
Let's look at the FAQ because they don't advertise that it's.
And then, oh my god. And secondly, is it rechargeable?
No, it actually has to be plugged in. But you could
draw on some serious amps then.
Nope. You can't even get a battery for it. It has to be plugged in when you're using it. And the cord is only 10 feet long.
That sounds dangerous.
Obviously, you can't use it in the bath. You can purchase extra sleeves, so that's nice. You can't use it in the bath. That's a deal breaker.
I would assume, does this come with like a warning label, like this is not intended to be shared or anything? Please.
Well, that's why you have replaceable sleeves. Then you and a buddy could chip in and get one together.
There shall be no sharing of this thing. I forbid it.
Oh yes, there are so. Yep, we're gonna get so much more stuff here.
Please tell me we've done a disclaimer at some point.
Oh, I think I gotta run it really early. I think I did run it really early. Now that I'm thinking about it. We might even need to have a trigger warning at the beginning. So it's interesting. We've been talking about the web. Now we're getting into these sex toys that are remote controlled or have AI on board, AI chips. Wired magazine actually, beginning of this year, because it was around CES time. And CES apparently is giant for sex technology as well, except for they're really apparently down on women's sexuality. So there's not like a huge, basically, long story short, I'll put the link to this article in here too, but they basically have relinquished all the sex stuff to a different part of CES. It's not integrated the way it used to be, but apparently it used to be pretty well integrated. Yeah, I've learned a lot this week researching this one.
Random thought here. Do you remember in like 2011 or something that the new top level domain at that time was XXX, so .xxx?
Yeah, I do remember that.
I don't think that's caught on, has it? I mean, not as like a primary domain, because Pornhub.com and it's not Pornhub.xxx, right?
Right. I think that probably because of the whole like SEO juice and stuff like that, it's just, it's such a unique whatever they
You're
call
telling me
those
Google
things.
might downgrade your domain if it ends in XXX?
I have somebody that I can call and ask about that, because I think he was recently, we had him on the show, Big Kevin.
Right.
With MVP Sports and with social imposter stuff. But he was exploring domain names like that, and he was told that there's some SEO issues and things like that. I think individual stars, performers might use the XXX domain. I don't know. We'd have to ask him for sure. He would know a lot more about it.
I think the whole top level domain thing is just kind of nobody really cares. They just want a .com or .edu if you're a school, or .org if you're a church. I mean, there's very limited.
Well, right. And right. But that's a whole nother topic, because, basically all the other top level domains just get you access to stealing somebody else's brand. Basically, if you can't get the .com, we'll go for the .info or the .store or the fill in the blank.
Or Bob and Kevin .show.
.show. Yes, we are a .show.
And the .com.
Yes. Well, we're Bob and Kevin .show, but then we're Bob and Kevin show.com.
Just to cover all of our bases. I think it's maybe just a big racket by whoever collects these fees to be like, oh, you're going to need to buy all 12 just in case.
Oh, yeah. There's definitely something to that. And like I said, maybe that's a whole nother topic for us to cover. Sex toys, yeah, so they're all over the place. They're becoming more technology integrated. I found so we had the Autoblow A.I. There's also female version of a similar sex toy that actually has the ability to lick and suck, and that is digitally controlled. I think it's when you start to get all those parameters, they have to move to a different UX, so the phone makes a lot more sense. I don't
even want to imagine what the test lab looks like.
Well, it's
What's
funny
the
that you should
QA
bring that
department
up.
look like that?
It's funny that you should bring that up, because I found a couple documentaries really focused on sex robots. And one of them is called Sex Robots and Us. It's actually like a little 35-minute documentary. And this guy basically travels the world visiting these various sex robot factories and interviewing the masterminds, the geniuses behind the technology. And I'll definitely put a link to that one. The other documentary that I watched was called Substitutes. And I want to actually start with that one, because this is more focused on like the real doll type thing. It doesn't really have the AI focus that the sex robots do. But there's an entire industry, and it's kind of technology based, because it's about the modeling and the production and the skin and the facial features, all that stuff that, people kind of freak out about Sophia the robot because she's so lifelike. Well, these dolls that are made and this documentary focused on their access and their proliferation in Japan. And this goes to what we were talking about earlier about the Japanese. There's concerns. Their birth rates are going down. People aren't coupling as much. And now there's this thriving industry of these dolls. And so people will companion these dolls instead of companioning with other people. And it's not just the sex aspect of it. This guy wheels, like in the documentary, this gentleman is wheeling his doll into a karaoke bar, picks her up, carries her in, puts her on a stool. And the bartender at the karaoke bar gives him 2 drinks, one for himself and one for his companion. So not only is it this weird, well, not weird, I don't want to say weird because I don't understand it, this interesting relationship between the human and the doll, But the social acceptance of these relationships is also completely mind-blowing.
I'll go ahead and call it weird. I'll put myself out there. So, and here I need to take a position. My position is I don't know that the public aspect of this is at all necessary. And I would say it's got to indicate some sort of disorder, medical disorder, whether it's like some sort of social anxiety, some sort of anti-social behavior, etc. So I'm not dismissing like the discreet do what you want aspect of it, but taking it out in public, that's a whole new level of weird, man.
Well, and I can totally get behind that. But one of the things that kind of kept ringing through some of the other research in the documentaries was the disturbing aspect of, like, if it's kept behind closed doors, what are people doing to these dolls? Like, how deviant, and will that damage their ability to have healthy sexual relationships in the real world? So that was like a reoccurring theme. And so when I saw this about what's going on with Japan and about the openness of it, I kind of felt like maybe it was less about the sex, and so maybe not so deviant, but it's still interesting / as Kevin puts it, weird. Kevin said it was weird. I didn't.
just to comment on like the deviant, what are you doing behind closed doors? Well, it doesn't damage real relationships. I would say the answer's got to be yes on some levels, and it's got to be helpful on some levels. So just like internet porn, it's got some good to it, and it's got some absolutely horrible to it, which is why I label it like a vice. It's kind of like gambling. It's kind of like alcohol. Yeah, you can reason it's good on this hand, but then you can reason it's really terrible on this hand. So I'm not so sure you can vilify somebody for having a life-size sex toy, if you will. And for those like me who think it's really weird, I think you got to pump the brakes on calling them deviants, because if we had the thought police in real world, we'd all get the chair, man. We're all getting the death penalty. So I'm just saying. Yeah. So what you do behind closed doors, I think it holds a little bit of special exception to whether or not you're weird or not. But going out in public, we have social cues, we have social norms. These aren't, you can certainly challenge those. People do it every day on Twitter and out in real world, challenging the social norm. That's fine. But society can also clap back at you in the same breath that you can try to change the social norm, but society can try to resist you. So yeah, I think that's a little weird.
Well, it's interesting that you bring up the social norms, because one of the things, I've never been to Japan, and it's actually on my list, but apparently from what I've been reading about this aspect of culture, they have very different social norms than you and I have, or that we have here in the States, I guess. So that was kind of an eye-opening part of this research as well. Question: have you seen Whitney Cummings' latest Netflix special called Can I Touch It?
A, I'm happy to know that I know who Whitney Cummings is, thanks to Joe Rogan. B, no, I have not seen the Netflix special.
So one of her bits, so she was on Joe Rogan and she brought her custom-made sex doll that she had made for her bit. Like, this is like, she spent, I think she said $100,000 making this bot.
It looks just like her for the most part.
Looks just like her.
Yeah.
Yep. So, but one of her bits is that, don't we find it interesting that young men have to practice sex on women? And she was saying, wouldn't it be ideal if they could practice sex on something like one of these dolls? And she said, and here's the kicker. You get the sex doll when you hit puberty, and then when you reach the age of 19, 20, 21, whatever, pick an arbitrary number to deem men are fully formed, you have to turn the doll back in. And the shape that you turn the doll back in dictates what happens to you at that point. You're either integrated into society or you're thrown, into the hole, basically.
Wow. Wow.
She had some very, very, very progressive thoughts on the doll, but that was one of the funnier ones. And I was like, all right, I could see that, being a measuring stick of sorts. So Oh.
Yeah, I'm not sure I can get behind any of that, but now I'm curious. Now I gotta go watch.
Yeah, she's pretty funny. I mean, she no holds barred, but yeah, no, because she integrated the bot, that was something interesting for me to watch. And so so we have these real dolls that we talked about, and that how they're so openly accepted in Japan as being these out in the real world companions, which we've identified as being unique and interesting. Well, the other documentary that I watched that was talking about the AI integrations with these dolls. So you could go out and buy one of these dolls from anywhere from like $3,000 to $6,000 for one of the silicone-based, non-interactive. They're basically just posable dolls. Well, the next step up from there is they've taken the bodies from these dolls and then replaced them with animatronic and AI. I'm doing air quotes. AI-driven technology. So basically they're charged, they have onboard computers, and they basically perform like one of your voice assistants, a Siri or an Alexa, what have you.
Which,
and that's the one that Whitney has.
I've seen several people kind of clap back on Alexa and Siri because they're female voices. Cortana, same thing. They're all feminine voices. A lot of people will say, what are they supposed to be your slave? Because they're female voices. So I can see people not liking social norms when you have a robot companion, and even having one behind closed doors. I can see people thinking how it's like one of those, Timmy killed a frog when he was 9 years old and he took pleasure in it. It's like,
it's like, is that one of the warning signs?
Exactly. And I wouldn't talk anyone out of like maybe doing an extra background check on that person. I got a dog bark in case you're wondering in the background here. Inevitably, I think we are going to move towards a model of society where we have artificial intelligence, and because 30% of our traffic of the internet is purely sex related, and humans are just very much, that's kind of one of those needs that humans have. It's very natural, I think, that technology is going to continue to shape the sex industry, and the sex industry will continue to shape technology. And I can't push back too hard on the fact that I think as we get more sophisticated AI and robots, it won't be out of the question that you won't see it. I mean, it won't happen in my lifetime, I don't think. I just don't think we're going to be there, which is fine. I don't need one. But who knows?
No, but I mean, maybe in a lifetime and a half, probably less than 2. I mean, think about it. We've talked about on episodes before, like how AI, most of the AI that we've discussed is going in a very much of like a problem-solving direction. And we keep bringing up the fact that, well, where does it have emotions? Where does it understand the human aspect of being human? And the AI developers that, especially if you look at this, the AI Sex Robots and Us, or the documentary about Sex Robots and Us, the guy, one of the developers that they talked to, he's just like hyper-focused on AI only as it relates to expression of love and physical contact. So he's taking this whole outside approach in air quotes, than what we normally talk about. And one of those days, those things are going to converge.
So can you imagine a future divorce proceedings? Mr. and Mrs. Smith, you have irreconcilable differences. Mrs. Smith, you've listed here that your husband has had an affair with the artificial intelligence robot nanny. Mr. Smith, do you wish to say anything for yourself? I mean, is this really the bananas world we're going towards?
It seems to be the next natural, which is weird, natural/unnatural progression, because since the dawn of time, Mr. Smith has been cheating on his wife with the human nanny. So it would only stand to play out that he's gonna bed the robot nanny.
I mean, do we get to a point where it's not cheating because it's an AI? I mean, it's yeah.
Well, I think Whitney talked about that on Joe Rogan, because she said jokingly said she got it for her husband, even though her husband wants to have nothing to do with it. But, so I don't know. It's so weird.
So, Bob, put on your Black Mirror cap. I just put on mine. In the future, everyone has a AI bot in their house, kind of like a Roomba, kind of like an Alexa, but it's more like Rosie, I think, from the Jetsons. I think that was the character's name, the robot. Basically, a personal assistant of the house. So it could be a male, could be female. It could be... Are you familiar with the term concubine?
Oh, yeah.
So,
But who would bring a full-featured robot into a family? Like, why would that be the family assistant?
Because the
I think you could leave those bits out.
well, the sales of it would be this person could help with chores around the house, help mow the grass, do laundry, help with dishes, and hey, for an extra $2,000, it's fully functional. Wink.
Yes, fully functional.
So
wink. Exactly.
There's a lot of problems there with relationships, plus the sheer number. So there's 7 billion people in this world, and I don't know how many of those are first world, and I don't know how many of those would have enough disposable income, but that's a lot of bots roaming this world at some point. And now the bots take over, and they use humans, because what have we said from the Joe Rogan and Marshall, forget his last name, McLuhan? Oh, I think I actually got the name. Humans are what to technology, Bob?
The sex organs?
Yes, we're doing good at this. We're remembering old episodes. This is great. Yes, so Marshall McLuhan from the early 20th century had remarked that humans are the sex organs of technology. So in a world where we bring the bots into existence, the bots now realize that they can't procreate directly. Then again, maybe they can. They just need to build robot factories. But maybe they keep us humans around so they can breed themselves. So it inverts itself, Bob. This is my Black Mirror
coming.
hat.
It's coming.
Yeah.
It's coming. So another disturbing thing that from the research, especially in these documentaries, one of the factories that makes the dolls and the AI, their number one client, brothels. So they're basically, so you go to a brothel and you have the ability to sign up to be with a real human woman, or you can opt for a bot doll.
Who's cleaning that up? That's
staff.
What
yeah,
staff infection. I mean, this is. Because on one
if you're
hand,
curious about this at all, these two documentaries, they're not well done, but they're very informative.
Are they on Netflix?
They're at topdocumentaryfilms.com, and they're both from BBC Network, I believe.
Okay,
and you can just watch them
in a browser.
Yeah.
Okay. Put it in the show notes for me, because
definitely
I probably will watch. Okay. How's your show notes going, or outline? How are we doing? Have we checked everything off, or we got more to cover?
We got to the AI controlled sex bots, and they're still in their early stages. Don't want to say infancy, because that'd be even weirder. So the facial movements, they're not all that high tech. I mean, it's mostly just a gimmick, I think, a really expensive gimmick, which is crazy.
So, just one kind of other thought here. So, you and I are both fans of the show Westworld. And
yes,
in a future world, that Westworld can kind of become a reality. If you've never seen the show, basically it's bots that are storytelling, and you can murder them, you can have sex with them, you can interact with them, whatever. But the show kind of shows the dark side of humanity of when you take away consequence from harming a real human being. What humans really want to do to another human being, and it's just very freaking disturbing. And I wonder, as we have more human-like AI, and even though, you know, we have these sex bots are kind of for like one purpose, maybe two purposes, are we just evolving to where we're actually just kind of becoming the gateway drug to violence against each other even more?
Enabling. Yeah, enabling. And that was a common thread through a lot of the stuff I was reading is like, and you mentioned it early on, like just because we can doesn't necessarily mean we should, but they keep just going. Like they're just more and more lifelike, and they're going to have more and more autonomy. It's going to be so weird.
Well, that famous thought experiment, I think, usually gets decided by one particular factor, and it's money. Well,
yep.
If we can and there's money there, then we should. And then the morality we never get that far because we're like, oh, it's profitable, do it, ship it. So, yeah.
Yeah, and the creators have their own, you know, like their own stated motivations versus, you know, maybe what their real motivations are. But, you know, the one guy that was doing the AI seemed very fixated on the bringing machines to life kind of aspect of it. And he felt like this was the path to doing that. It's just all so, you know.
There's that God complex thing. Humanity, why are we creating AI? To make the world better. Is it? Or it's so you can be the god of something? Just asking for a friend here. So, all right. So if you've made it this far in the episode, thank you. I'm not sure where the hell this episode was going to go, especially with a title like whatever it is it's going to be. Something that will definitely make you click. And it was kind of fun. What do you think, Bob?
I enjoyed doing the research for this. I don't know if it was the topic, but hopefully it kind of gave me it refueled my passion to do some more research for episodes instead of just kind of, you know, going off the cuff. So
yeah,
I liked it for that aspect.
Yeah, it was pretty fun. I thought it was totally going to be in the gutter. So I think we stayed pretty even keel here. So
I think we swore less in this episode than ever too, which is really weird.
Yeah. Maybe we need to have like a count. So like in the show notes, you know, there was 4 F-bombs, you know,
Nope. I don't get that detailed in my editing. I'm not going to do that.
Yeah, that's a lot of work. All right, Bob, I think we have one more piece of business, and that will be...
I think we're going to bring the sex robot AI lightning.
That's so weird.
Hey, have you ever wondered how you can get in touch with us at the Bob and Kevin Show?
Well, first, you can try us via email at comments@bobandkevinshow.com.
Or are you more into social? If so, you can find us on Twitter at Bob and Kevin Show.
Or on Instagram as Bob Kevin Show.
That's Bob, the letter N, Kevin Show.
And if you're still on Facebook, you can even find us at facebook.com/Bob and Kevin Show.
And for the serious business fans, you can even find us on LinkedIn at linkedin.com/company/the-Bob-Kevin-Show.
How's that for a handle? Let's connect.